Hello, loves. Hello, hello. Hills here from the Blue Flame. How are we all doing? Whew, we are in full swing of forward momentum of the month of April in this year 2026, this year of the Magician and the Wheel of Fortune, this year of movement into the new, this golden dawning. And we have now come through the Libra full moon on April 1st or 2nd, depending on your locale. And we're really in this push, in this, I almost want to use the word pressure cooker, but it's not contained the way a pressure cooker is. There is this energy of bonfire, bonfire that we're moving through. And this week that we're going to talk about today, beginning, well, right now it's Monday, the 6th of April, and we're moving into the waning moon, the darkening moon, the wizened moon, the crone moon. And on Thursday, the 9th, we will experience that half moon that is the Capricorn crone moon. Throughout the entirety of this passage between the Libra full moon and a very, very intense and powerful Aries new moon on the 17th of April, we are likely to be experiencing something that my guides have indicated I should call activation syndrome. And we're going to get into some of the astrological aspects that are blueprinting or pointing us in the direction of how this activation system syndrome might actually move through each and every one of us individually and collectively. But first, let's explore for a moment what is meant by activation syndrome, shall we? So, there are a couple of different definitions of activation syndrome. I'll share for myself personally. In 2018, 2019, I got diagnosed with something called mast cell activation syndrome. This is when the histamines, the allergens in your body, get really alert and everything seems like a battle. Everything seems like a toxin, and they go off and they start attacking everything. And part of my personal journey has been rewiring, releasing them, inviting those warriors to stand down, to feel the things that are really a threat while releasing those things that in that flight or fight of activation syndrome made them think that innocuous things were also a threat. And so through this, we're getting a little bit of an idea, a feeling of what is meant by activation syndrome, right? In some contexts, in psychological contexts, uh, the Jungian Buckminster Fuller sort of energy of activation syndrome, it is that fight or flight. It's the trauma response that all the colors seem brighter. We break out into that sweat. We come into this state of readiness for battle, right? This is a form of activation syndrome. Now, there's another psychological form of activation syndrome. So if you look it up online, this is probably actually the first one that you'll see, which is the designator for when somebody takes an SSIDI, which is the Wellbutrins and the Prozacs of the world, these mood stabilizers, and they have a bad reaction to it. if you've ever been through the gauntlet of psychological medicines, you'll know that they often give you one and it doesn't work, or if you've known anyone who has. And what it's called when you start to feel that sense of, oh, this isn't proper for my system, is called activation syndrome. And it has very similar symptomology to the fight or flight activation syndrome that we were talking about earlier. It also has very similar symptoms to the mast cell activation syndrome, which are fatigue or insomnia, really fast shifts in mood or in state of ease, really intense physical reactions like chills or inflammation in the case of mast cell activation, a feeling of heightened senses. Now, the reason that we're bringing all of these variants of activation syndrome in as we come into the current of energy that we're navigating right now is because there is another form of activation syndrome. And you guessed it, it is spiritual activation syndrome or light body activation syndrome. And sometimes the symptomology of these spiritual or light body or Ka body activation syndromes can get confused with mast cell or fibromyalgia or fight or flight response or perimenopause. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not also experiencing some of these in your physicality or in your mental plane when the spiritual activation is occurring, when the light body activation is occurring. However, the linkage between these, we can get really narrow focused. Oh, it's perimenopause. And we forget to do the more spiritual grounding work, the opening up that is part of the prescription for this activation syndrome. Now, I will share for myself personally, the last couple of weeks have been powerfully activating. There has been so much and continues to be so much electromagnetic energy. And when we're talking about light body activations, when we're talking about the Ka body activations, we are talking about electromagnetic energy. There has been so much electromagnetic energy moving through me, so much light moving through me that at times my hair on my arms has literally been standing up, even on my head. It's like when you rub a balloon together and you stick it to the wall or you rub it on your head, and there's that just like static electricity. There's been this static electricity around. Part of this is due to some massive solar activity that we've had. We had that quote unquote surprise X flare just about a week ago. And there has been a massive jutting of M flares since then. We even had an almost second X flare. Right now, we're coasting in this like balmy bath of B flare activity, which is helping us to come back in, to integrate. If you ever look at a solar flare map, you'll notice that when it gets into the B and A realm, the color of the flares that it shows is green, and that's helping us to understand that it's a little bit more soothing, a little bit more calming. energy. So all of this is to say that we've been gearing up, we've been activating, we're moving chug, 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 forward, 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 as a bunch of planets are doing some shifting as well. And the fire, the intensity of all of this, with so much happening in Aries and on the Capricorn crone moon of the 9th of April, Mars will return home. The fiery one of I am returns home to the 0 point of Aries, crossing through that axis mundi. And at that point, when we get to that point, we're really going to feel this fire. If you haven't already been feeling it, it is just going to be burning through you. One of the balms to this, of course, is also Venus in Taurus. Venus at home in Taurus leading the way in those grounding, earthy energies where Venus is at home, leading the way of all this fiery energy, kind of helping us to anchor it through, to embody it. As we come to the end of the week, around the 12th of April, Mars will exactly conjunct Neptune. This is, I am the dream weaver. I have the capacity, I am of the capacity of weaving the world. Now, you may have noticed that your dream times have gotten quite intense. Even for those of us who already have quite intense dream time journeyings, the dreams may have become even more intense. Again, I'll share a personal story. I do a lot of timeline adjusting and transmutation of timelines that are ready to be shifted out in my dream time. This is part of my personal soul makeup and one of my service works that I do in the world, in the universe, is helping to clean up errant strands, we could say. So for myself personally, all of a sudden the dream times have started gathering all these groups of people into situations, bringing them into contact with one another in ways that these groups of people have never been in contact in this expression of waking life. And renegotiating, reweaving the correlations. And when we're doing this, we're going to look at this from a Jungian sort of aspect quickly, which is in the dream time, according to Jung, every character in the dream is you. And we're going to put on the side over here that deeper truth that some dreams are not what they seem. They're not simply our subconscious refiling. But taken from that point of view of rewiring, refiling, sorting through that dreams have that aspect of when they're processing the subconscious and unconscious aspects of us. Remember, we're talking about a crone moon here as well. Wizened and foundational in that dharmic sign of Capricorn. If we experience the dream time and every character, every player in that journey of the dream time as an aspect of ourselves, we are also connecting to that highest truth that Every single one of us is indeed and in fact an aspect of every other one of us. We are all the universe in cosplay. So, all of this dream time journeying. And one of the prescriptions here is waking life journaling. To, as soon as you wake up in the morning, write down. Now you can record it as well in a voice recorder. There is something alchemically magical about the physical act of writing, but if you are more inclined to actually do it, if you record it into like an audio recorder on your phone or something, absolutely, this is beautiful as well. They are all forms of expression. Myself personally, again, we'll go into what my practice to way show a little bit here is to lay in bed and allow all the processes, allow myself to connect to the threads, to reweave in a meditative state. I've personally trained myself to wake up in that meditative state so that I can do this. But there were those times when, for me, I needed to physically write them. There were those times when I needed to audio record them. Find what works for you, and what worked for you 2 weeks ago may not work for you now. We are in a time of massive shifting, which means that the foods that you once thought were good and healthy for you may make you sick now. The foods that once made you sick might be exactly what you need now. Allow movement. The types of meditation that worked for you a year ago may not be working anymore, and you may need to find new tools. Feel into what your tools were, how they felt at different times, and what is calling to you now. This would be a really great time, actually, this week as we're coming to the Aries new moon, in the run up to, as the moon continues to darken, to explore your alchemical toolbox, your spiritual toolbox, your practices. What worked for you in different phases of your life, and go all the way back. Go all the way back to when you were a kid to feel, how did I, when I was a child, regulate my central nervous system? And we're back to that activation syndrome again, where you see everything that we're talking about here when we're talking about the electromagnetic body, when we're talking about the Ka body, when we're talking about activation syndrome. Everything that we're talking about here has to do with the regulation of the central nervous system, how we interact unconsciously with the parasympathetic nervous system, with the vagus nerve, with the Venus point, with the amygdala, that processes of our fear and trauma responses. Can you feel how that adrenal activation syndrome is part of this as well? You may have noticed that you are absolutely exhausted some of the time, almost adrenal fatigue level exhausted. There is so much happening in the undercurrent, so much movement, that taking pauses, allowing space for stillness can be very helpful. When we say, go back to the way you regulated your central nervous system as a child, when you encountered fight or flight, when you encountered traumatic events, part of what we're doing with this is connecting to that innate knowing What was your innate, before someone told you how to do it? What was the way that you went back to? Did you suck your thumb? Did you rock back and forth? Did you hum to yourself? Did you go into a dissociative state, as they call it, where you go into your imagination land? Did you get really loud and gregarious and try and make everyone laugh? The reason we're inviting us to go back into that space is so that we can see the roots, the original response systems, so that we can feel the ones that actually worked and feel how we evolved in this incarnation from those spaces. When we get all the way back to the way we did it when we were children, young children, we're talking about pre-verbal and just becoming verbal sort of age groups here, before 7. You're starting to feel more of a connection to the other incarnations there as well. And what was happening? What has your soul experienced, and what did your soul bring into this incarnation? All of this is so that as things continue to heat up, as the falling away and the noise gets louder, as all of this is what it's supposed to look like, and the dogmatic spiritualism says, no, it can't, you can't do that. We can feel those triggers more wholly. We can find those places of truth within them. One of the ways that this has been navigating through me in this current is the energy that I call the taskmaster. All of the programs that have been laid on top of me that share with me and try and protect me by saying, you need to do this. This will keep you safe. Do that over there. And then the Joseph Campbell, still quiet voice within. And those places where they interact, and allowing that still quiet voice, which is that innate knowing, that truth that says, I know that the world, your parents, your programs, your society, your culture, your tribe, your group of friends, your coworkers, your family, intimate and extended, your ancestral line, even your soul group, says this is the way that it's supposed to be done. And that quiet voice is like, that's not going to work for you. Try this way. And this voice gets really loud because, oh my God, if you do it that way, you're going to be abandoned. Here's that Chiron in Aries. You're going to be shunned. You're going to be left for dead. You're going to be hanged. You're going to be imprisoned. Whatever, all of the stories. You're going to lose all your friends. You're going to lose your family. You're going to be all alone. And the still quiet voice is like, no, that's not true. And looks at that place that I call the taskmaster and says, it's okay. I see you. We need to go this way. The invitation here is to feel when you're running from when you're operating from the taskmaster, from the fear response, and when you're operating, when you're moving from that still quiet voice. And when we go all the way back to the activation syndrome of our youth, of our pre-verbal time, when we feel that fight or flight, and the way that our amygdala and our being reacted in situations that felt dangerous, we can self-soothe. We can help ourselves move more fully into that I am. No one said it was going to be easy. And no, it isn't, but it is so worth it. Now let's look at some of the astrology now that we've gone all the way through all of that current that's showing us, that's mapping out in the cosmos for us how this is operating. And part of the reason that we do this is because the way that these energies will affect you personally, individually, can be read through your natal chart. That is to say, where these movements are occurring, which house they're occurring in for you, what aspects they're making to your personal map, can help to tune you in to the right frequency, right? So as Mars during the Capricorn crone moon tips over on Thursday into the 0 point of Aries, you can look at what house is the 0 point of Aries. You'll see it's been getting quite a lot of activity, and it's going to continue to do so over the next couple of months, throughout this month of April in particular. You can see and feel, oh, we'll just go with the one that came in. Oh, my 0 point of Aries is in my second house. Oh, isn't that interesting? The second house has the energy of Taurus, which is where Venus is right now. I've really been feeling this in my physicality. I have the capacity to manifest. I am closer to that connection between the fire and the earth, that creative cauldron. Things feel quite volcanic, perhaps, if you might be one of these people who has the 0 point of Aries in your second house. Just this upsurging of energy could feel very Kundalini. Now, which house you have there, and what other things you might have at the 0 degree of the other signs can impact all of this, right? As Mars continues to move into Aries, and we come to the 12th of April, and that Neptune conjunction happens. Now, this Neptune conjunction is occurring directly across the wheel from the supergalactic center in Libra at 2 degrees. We will find collectively that our capacity to engage our passions, our fire, our creative fuel, our inner warrior. And I'm not talking about a combative warrior. I am talking about that drive and purpose. That part of us is more connected to our imagination. We can imagine ourselves more engaged with the world, with the universe. The illusion of separateness from the whole circus is able to disintegrate more. Again, what is your relationship here? What are you moving through in that 2 degrees of Libra? What house is that? For you personally, where is that 2 degrees of Aries? What do you have in the other cardinal signs around there, right? In the other fire signs, in the other air signs. Venus, during this whole process, is going to be working with Jupiter in Cancer. Venus moving through the 12 to 16 degrees of Taurus in sextile to Sirius, that dog star, that blue light of Christ consciousness, and Jupiter, magnanimous, big, beneficial, prosperous, lucky. The sextile is a gifting bridge. It helps us to connect with the larger gifts that we find in our trines. And this sextile between Venus and Venus and Jupiter movements together are magnetic benefice. They are opening us up to the truth that all that we desire is within us. And this Jupiter in Cancer, the true large S of our belonging. They are pointing the finger of God, that Yod, at the great Attractor and Black Moon Lilith. Now, here we find that the way that it keeps showing up for me is that Jupiter is sitting before a basket, playing a tune on the flute. The basket is Venus and Taurus. The lid is off. And as Jupiter plays the tune, Venus, in a safe, secure home for the serpent, the Kundalini, that primordial feminine, and the downslope of the great Attractor, gathering, gathering, gathering as the music invites the serpent to rise. When we talked about the activation syndrome and the Ka body and the light body, this movement that we're in right now is inviting ourselves to feel safe to rise. By the time we get to the Aries new moon, Mars will be conjunct to Saturn. The sun and the moon will be conjunct to Chiron. And we will be feeling that movement as Venus comes up to Uranus. And like the snake charmer that we were talking about just a moment ago, says, come hither, Uranus. It's time to enter Gemini now. Let me feel. As part of the offering in the inner sanctum of the Blue Flame Apothecary, a special Venus Point sound bath was brought through. A new harmonic was created as divined. It's called the 33rd harmonic. It's a movement of 2 frequency hertz interwoven that create a tone that specifically works with the Venus Point meridian. If you would like to know more about the Venus Point, there will be a link below so that you can explore the Venus Point itself. It is a bridge, kind of like a sextile, between the amygdala and the vagus nerve that helps us to soothe and refocus that activation syndrome, to come into a new relationship with the way that we process fear and trauma, grief and longing, so that rather than moving it through the slow, arduous digestive system, those long, long intestines, we bring it instead into the loving embrace of the heart. Kind of like that quiet voice, that still quiet voice that's getting louder and louder every day. Sees the taskmaster or the cherubim see Ershkigal in the story of Inanna and Ershkigal. Guidance has indicated that a shortened version of the sound bath that came through for our inner sanctum, which is a 33-minute and 33-second version, a 3-minute and 33-second version will be uploaded in the coming days here to the YouTube channel so that we can all start to feel that movement, that rewiring, that opening of the channel that allows us to process these activations with a bit more ease. You feel. Go easy and gentle with yourselves, dear ones. There is much being moved through each and every one of your systems, cleared out and anchored through. Allow space. Allow yourself some grace. And remember, in those moments of overwhelm, of which there is likely to be quite a few, come back here to the heart. Come back to the breath. Gentle in and out. In and out. And remember the truth that you are love, that you are loved. You are part of the universal hum. And allow those things that need to be shifted out to be shifted out, to make space for those beautiful new truths that have existed always within you to rise up and move you. Thank you, my dears. Thank you for journeying with me. We went some really amazing and powerful places today. It was not quite as much astrology as we normally play with, but it felt like we needed to speak these truths into this space. So much and many loves, as always, in the always, from the dimensions of the all and beyond the beyond. Thank you for you.